Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another rich and full episode of our Full of Ourselves podcast, season 4. And this one, Anna and I, we had to put the brakes on at one point because once we started to have a conversation about what we're going to include today, my goodness, it's the things that we could talk about are endless. And we're really excited for you to hear this. And we really welcome and invite your thoughts on the topic as well, because I think you'll have something to say and resonate. So today we are exploring what we're calling the anti-shoulds. The anti-shoulds. I think that's who me and Anna are, the anti-shoulds. What are the anti-shoulds? Well, there are a lot of business rules, aren't there? There's a lot of kind of rules in business, things that one ought to do, must do, and so on. And obviously, a lot of those are really helpful, and especially when we're starting out. And they're kind of, some of those things are pretty much like, yeah, great, I need that. However, there are an awful lot of shoulds in business that we wanted to question today, and particularly when it comes to being a woman in business, because I think then a whole load more shoulds start to arrive on the table that could be running underneath what you're doing and impacting your success, your happiness, the sustainability of what you're doing, the fulfillment, your growth, every single aspect, really. So we're going to start with just explain a little.
I just wanted to sorry, can I add in something as you're talking? Oh, this is so exciting. This was a Heidi topic. Heidi came with this one and I was like, oh yes, this is great. And just before we hit record, we were talking about all our ideas, and we basically have, a whole season's worth of ideas to share on this because this is such a juicy topic. But I think the shoulds are really important because they are things that we have internalized a lot of times. So they're coming at us from all over the place. There's all these things that women need to do. And then in the wider context, in terms of business, of what we need to do. And I just wanted to put out there is whether some of these shoulds, maybe all of them, are just socially conditioned obedience dressed up as strategy. And I was like, is that what this is? Because so much of it is around controlling us, controlling our behavior, saying that there's only one way to do things. And certainly on Full of Ourselves, we are very much against the idea that there is one way to do anything. And I think sometimes when we first start out, we're looking for it. We're looking for the strategy. We're looking for what is the one thing? And you see this so much on adverts of like, this is my strategy. This is the best way of doing X. This is the best way of doing Y. And it's not, it's one way. And it's the way that person has found that works. And so, we have like, I've written down so many different shoulds here, but we've tried to kind of break it down into some very juicy, real ones that we feel like so many of us get caught up on. Yeah. And so, yes, we've really had to cull the list. So we definitely want to hear yours as well. Do let us know what are the big ones that come up for you too. So sorry, just wanted to jump in on that as well.
Okay. I was getting to that, but you're so excited.
Oh, sorry, I know. That's what this is about with this conversation. So yes,
because it's like we're like, got our teeth going to go. Yes,
I know. There's too much to say.
It's great. There's never too much to say. It's just out. This is you'll see. Actually, this is brilliant because this is very much on point to what we're going to be exploring. But I thought what we could do to begin with is just explain. We know what shoulds are, but what really are shoulds? And I know for myself, and I'm very good at this these days, of noticing as soon as, I should comes out my mouth, I should do this, I should really do that. I'm very good at pausing pretty quickly and going, no. If it's a should, I ain't doing that because that's coming from an interesting place. So I wanted to just give you a sense of what is should. So A should is a shame-based statement that's created or that creates stress and anxiety in your body and mind. Shoulds are about this feeling that we're not quite aligned with actually where we are, who we are, what's going on. Like we're kind of falling short of some kind of expectation. Expectation, as Anna just said, that we might have internalized from outside, expectation that we're carrying because of stories that maybe are old in our own self, our own community, our own family, our own gender, so on and so on as well. So it's quite nuanced and quite complex in some ways. And we're not going to go into looking particularly behind that veil today. Shoulds can make us and do make us, they give us those gorgeous gifts of guilt and judgment and comparison and all those really yummy feelings that we really want to be creating our business from. And it's just so insidious. It's so interesting that should is even in our vocabulary. Like, who invented that? Like, they need a good slap, if you ask me.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's so important to talk about the guilt that comes from it, because I think so many of us have that little niggle on a little thought that's like you said, oh, and you need to notice when it's a should rather than something that you actually want to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are things that need doing that are not in our business. It is true. There are going to be things that have to be done.
Yeah.
And so that it's kind of spotting the difference between those things.
Yeah.
That's
One of the
key.
things that I've spoken of before and certainly spoken with Anna with, and I think we've might have brought this into probably season 3, really, something through the training that I did. And it's something called the pain that sets you free. So there's certain things that we have to do for our business. We have to file those taxes. We might have to put that funding application in. We might have to create a particular spreadsheet. We might have to look at some admin, send some emails, that kind of stuff. And labeling those things that need to be done, because we know once we've done those, they'll actually, improve things. They're going to get us somewhere. They're needed. Labeling those as the pain that sets me free is really helpful. So sometimes just rewording that in my mind as in, okay, this is something that is a pain that will set me free. I'm going to set my timer for half an hour. I'm going to give myself this half an hour pain that sets me free block. What are those things that I need to get done? And this is important, I think, Anna, is like you're saying, it's not always that we can avoid these particular things, but it's more about moving from a bit of a kind of victim mode of shoulds, a bit powerless, to choosing. So rather than I should tackle my email box, because, rather than I should do that, it could be I'm choosing to tackle this afternoon because I know it'll feel better once I'm done. And yeah. So choice, I always say this, choice equals power. When we come from choosing our actions and our steps, we stay in a sense of our own agency. And this is vital because we're learning, it's about mindset, and we're learning how to, really sit in our own authority in what we're doing, have a sense of self leadership in our business, self responsibility. So I really love changing that from I should to I'm choosing to do this thing today. Do I enjoy it? Not necessarily. It's a pain that sets me free. Let's go. So I just wanted to add that in. It's a really good way as we talk about the things we're going to talk about now, for you to just think about how many times am I shoulding myself, and where do I get to choose what my actual steps are?
Mm. I do love that. And I think remember you telling me about that the first time, and I was like, oh yes. because a lot of times, I
Yeah.
can spend time, I try not to do this anymore, but I've spotted it in myself. But there are times where there's things that I know I need to do, and it just stays on your mind, and you're thinking about it, and actually doing the thing takes much less time than all of that angst about doing the thing. And so I kind of love that idea of the pain that sets you free, because it's not going, I'm going to wait until I'm going to find this an enjoyable task. No. There are some tasks that are not enjoyable, but when they are done,
Yeah.
that's when we get to enjoy ourselves. That's when we get to feel like we can trust ourselves, that sense of accomplishment.
Yeah. And
So I
that's when you
think
get to
that
cross it off the
self-trust is
list.
the important part of it.
We can get to cross it off the list. That's one of my favorite things to do. That big whoosh kind of across. So let's begin. We've chosen out of so many things five shoulds that we're going to come in and sprinkle a whole load of anti-shoulds onto it. So let's start.
Okay, so shall I start us off?
Go for it.
They're not in any particular order, because frankly they're all as annoying as each other. But the first one we're going to go for is, as a woman, you should be accommodating. Oh, yeah. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you will see the big shudder that Heidi just did.
It's such a
And obviously, as part of the Good Girl Rebellion, I do want to bring that out as this idea that what we need to do is always be considering the other person, that everything is around, all of our what we do is around a lens of how is this going to impact somebody else.
Yeah.
And yes, in business, we obviously need to think about our customers, our clients, of course. But I think what happens is we can end up being in that accommodating space, and that subservient in a lot of ways space, which is not very good for business, because what we want to be doing is coming from that powerful space of, here is who I am, here is what I do, here's my product, whatever it is that we do. It's not about being subservient and accommodating, and how can I, there's a balance, is what I'm trying to say, around getting that. And I think for women, we have been so much pushed into that subservient role and the accommodating role. And I think there's the issue when it comes to business.
I love this because it's so true, and it's so wet and lacks any sense of, that authority, and with that then sense of trust. You want your clients, you want your audience, you want your customer, you want the people you're stood in front of to feel that they can trust who you are, where you're coming from, what you're offering, what you're doing, and lean in whatever way that is. And that place of obedience, you're saying, accommodation, it doesn't give that sense of trust. And people can feel that, like you're not owning yourself, like you're saying, Anna, everything is kind of looking outside. Am I okay? Is this okay? It's got that people pleaser mentality. And what starts to happen when we're so nice and accommodating is that, well, a few things start to happen. First of all, our own boundaries, which are absolutely vital, start to become blurred. So perhaps our no doesn't really mean so much anymore, because we're willing to override that because somebody outside of us needs more from us, more time. That's a huge one. More time, or can this be done before then, or will you get back to me at 8 p.m. and all those things we might have set for ourselves, which suddenly we could be thinking, oh no, they're not going to appreciate this, when we're very clear of, actually 5 p.m. comes. I know no one is like this, especially if you work for yourself, but let's pretend 5 p.m. comes, I'm not going to be looking at my emails, I'm not doing any more work. Someone sends that at 8, 9 p.m. and that nice part of you goes, oh, I'll respond, I don't want them to have to wait till tomorrow. That breeds resentment. in us as well. That's something that starts to, this anger that becomes kind of quite insidious. And I think a big part of this actually is the fact that, and it's quite an innate quality, where I think generally women, we've kind of been trained, or it's very woven into us to be liked. And if we're not liked, there's something wrong with us. We're already carrying a lot of, am I enough? Is this enough? You know, and it's kind of insidious to feel it, and it makes me cringe. And I understand it, and I know it myself very strongly. It's still there underneath, even if it doesn't really run everything day to day anymore. So the idea of like, maybe this person won't like me, or they'll be annoyed with me, or they'll be disappointed, or they'll disapprove of, simply because I'm not bending towards their will, I'm holding my own boundaries, suddenly is quite a big thing. And rather than liked, I think it's much more important in business and in life, actually, is to be respected. I'd rather be respected for what I bring, for what I'm sharing, my authority, my knowledge, my skills, my abilities. I'd rather they're respected rather than having to be liked. You know, and that is a big thing for women, I think. And I was wondering, I said to Anna, I wonder if guys have this. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think there's a part sometimes of us that, especially if you're just starting out on a business or something like that, that we can kind of downgrade ourselves and be feeling like we need to prove ourselves in a certain way, and we need to do that by being likable. And I think even if you are starting a business in a, that's new, it's not, yeah, you're not new to this world. You've got so much more that you can bring. A lot of people are kind of coming with another background, a corporate background, another kind of business that they've worked for, or a profession that they've worked in. It's not like you're starting from zero. You already have so much to bring. And this idea of kind of being accommodating and all of that, it down the road, it leads to burnout. Because you're answering emails at weird times of night, and you're setting that precedent for people, and then there's an expectation that that's what you do and that's who you are. And maybe you've done it once because you saw the email and you were being nice, and now it's an expectation. And so what we need to be very clear on is those boundaries and those expectations that we need to set, and we need to communicate them. And then that's how you have that respectful relationship, I think.
And then it becomes nothing to do with us. Somebody else's reaction to those, that's their thing. We can stand in and be super clear. And there's also that whole thing as well. If we're not nice, then are we a bitch in business? Are we ruthless? Rather than just being very clear, have a very strong sense of our own integrity that we're bringing across the board. But again, it still is here, isn't it? Around women being, kind of a bit crazy and ruthless and got the claws out and masculine, whatever that means, because we actually stand up and go, this isn't okay. This isn't right. I'm not, I'm not saying yes to this. And it's hard to do that, especially if we're not used to kind of really holding that particular shape, because otherwise we do change our shape. And as we change our shape, we give our power away as well. And I think the nice thing for me also runs through, like at the moment, I'm just starting a new business working with corporations and bringing in the nervous system work for them, which is just really exciting. And I've talked to Anna about this. I'm thinking about my wardrobe, the things that I want to wear for this. I have a very clear sense of how I want to present myself. And that might not fit into this idea of what does professional meant to look like. Am I just meant to wear black and navy and grey? And, it could even go to things like that. I'm not talking about being completely unkempt and not caring. There's a standard. But even the things like, how do we want to present ourselves? it's being nice or accommodating is fitting in to something because we think we should, as opposed to going, do you know what? I'm not, as my teacher said to me recently, if you're not beige, but you're hot pink, and I thought this is quite relevant to us, isn't it? Then don't pretend to be beige, be hot pink. That's who you are. So you're really allowing yourself to go, this is me. I'm bringing everything that I have to offer here. You are fucking lucky to get to work with me, and you will receive kind of so much out of this, but don't fuck around. Thank you very much, because I'm not having it. It's very liberating as well.
Yes. And I think there's always been a little bit of an all or nothing. And I don't think it has to be all or nothing. It's either you're the mouse, and you're really pulling back, or you're the ball breaker, and you're going out there and you're doing all of that. And I just don't think we need to we need to be who we are. And I think this idea, these stereotypes are not that helpful.
They're not helpful. And also, one more thing on this, it doesn't mean we have to be loud and brash and bold. That might be kind of scary. No, we can be quiet. Maybe we are quite a quiet person and we have this quiet dignity. We just have a very clear no, even if it's softer than someone screaming no at the other end of the boardroom, but we sit in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Do you want to come into number 2?
Number 2. So this is, we should do it all ourselves. Do it all ourselves. I mean, this is such a, again, makes me have a big sigh. There's something really interesting about how that carries on from this sense of in our lives. We've talked about false independent women syndrome before, and I certainly have carried that one. It's quite hard to break, I have to be honest. I know lots of people like that as well. And we might have had that going on in our lives. And then when it comes to business, suddenly we're recreating the same pattern and maybe not even realizing that we're doing this. So what can that look like? That can be pretty much, no, it's fine. I'm just going to do effort. Yeah, no, I'll look after the finance. Yeah, no, I've got the action plan, business plan. Yeah, you need that quarter. No worries. I'll get that pitch proposal ready for that person. Right, I've got to sort out my social media. So blah, 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 blah. I would just be in the floor crying in the corner at this point going, it's too much. I don't know where to start.
It's such an interesting one. And I think it's very good girl, this idea of I should be able to do it all. I should be able to just get on with it, anticipate everybody's needs and do everything well in advance of what everyone needs, and just deal with things before they come up, and do it all. And
Superwoman, isn't it?
I think what's very interesting is that it is in the interests of your competitors that you try and do everything yourself, because you only have a finite amount of time and energy and ability. Like some of the stuff you just cannot do. They are not your skills.
Yeah.
And, I think in a lot of ways, the internet is as unhelpful in this, because there's so many things. It's like, I'll just work out how to do my own branding, right, make my own website, do all of these things. And yes, we can do it. We are extremely capable women. And we're distracting ourselves on these side quests that are they're not moving the business forward. And somebody else is hiring someone else who's much better placed to do that. And they're moving forward much faster. I mean, we need, as business people, at a certain point, we need to think about what is the thing in my business that only I can do?
Yeah.
What is that thing?
Yeah.
And how can I start to build out support in those areas where someone else can do it? Maybe it's admin stuff, email, I don't know, something that's easy enough for someone else to do. Or maybe you can train AI to do it, I don't know. But or that you're just not that good at, but
Yeah.
you're trying to do it because you think you should.
Yeah.
Like you think because it's your business that you have to do every job.
Yeah. And then there's a great,
No.
no, and then there's a great like weight we put on ourselves. Like, I'm a failure if I can't do this. There's that shame that we talked about before, this judgment. At the end of the day, I remember this years ago when I was collaborating with my friend Skylar. We were doing Write Your Ebook 6-week program together, which was great. And her eyes would light up. I've never seen someone's eyes light up so much at the word spreadsheet. She was like,
Ugh.
she loved it. Whereas I had that exactly what Anna just said. If you didn't see her, like, kind of yuck. So it was obvious that she was going to do that. Okay, this is a collaboration. But you do that. Great. Just enjoy every moment of it. And there were other places. Where are my strengths? This is just being honest with yourself. Well, what areas are my strengths? Where are my strengths? And where are those places that maybe I'm weaker at or not so good at or don't really give a shit about? Let's be honest. And then going, right, okay. So is there somebody else? Can I hire somebody? Maybe we're supporting another woman then and giving her work or work experience. This is really, really important that we're doing this together. Or maybe it's something, that I need to go and learn, kind of get more skills, which you talked about before as well. But then it's still going in and going, there's a big thing, isn't there, about asking for help, asking for support. Again, as women, how good are we at doing that most of the time? Not very good, because we assume all sorts of things by saying I'm asking for help. But it is huge. And also, it's quite selfish of us in a weird way not to, when there might be people maybe in our immediate circle, maybe in the kind of business context that we're in, whether we're going to networking, we're growing, to keep that all to ourselves rather than go, hey, does anyone else want to do this? And, sharing that with other people. And there's also this feeling of, if we're doing it all ourselves, there's usually a feeling of trying to control everything. And
Yes.
how does that work out? It doesn't. We have what's called a body budget, a certain amount of capacity available to us every day, metabolic body budget. So some of those things, like Anna was saying, if we go off on a bit side quests, believe me, I am very good at doing that. Even yesterday, something I need to do at the moment for a certain business, I am like already, my mind got excited about this other idea. If you can see me, my body's turning away. It's like, yes, let's go off on this little happy skippy road, which might be fun, but it's completely irrelevant to what my business is. And yeah, it's just going to use up all my energy. It's going to use up so much of my resources and time. And then I'm probably going to be frustrated because that's not, really what I wanted to do. And I think there's a connection here, isn't there, as well, around, well, how much, what is the expectation? What is the pressure we're putting on ourselves, and why, and who for?
Yeah.
I think that's the big one, which might lead us into our next. I mean, all of these kind of weave in. Should we go to the next one, do you think? Did you have something else?
Yes. I'm trying to think which one we've got next. Do you want to say which one?
Yes, it's this idea of proving.
Yeah. So I should continuously prove myself.
I should continuously prove. So it feels like a kind of a little bit of like continuation of what we've just been speaking about. I should do everything myself, because what's that all about? I should be continuously proving myself. I should be continuously working. I should be continuously showing up. I should be continuously productive. I should be continuously hustling. I should probably have a nervous breakdown around now.
Yeah, I think this is such a big one. And again, I think it depends sometimes on families. I've had a few people that I've been coaching, and it's been a bit sad that their family doesn't really support what they're doing. And so they do feel like they need to be continuously proving themselves, and they feel like there's people outside of them who were just waiting for them to fail. And so I think that that's a really difficult energy for any of us to be in, because we are going to get things wrong, and if we're scared to do that, we're never going to move forward at all, because we're forever going to be second guessing ourselves and thinking, is this the right way? Oh, but what if I do this? Or what if I do that? And the overthinking side, which I'm very good at, and, noticing that. And I think if we're trying always to prove ourselves, it is again about people outside of us. It's that external forces. And a lot of times it's one or two people, where we think about what will people think.
What will they think?
Most of the time there's like one or two people that actually is the people that we're talking about. It's not like the world. There's some people that we feel will judge us, harshly, and mostly people that we physically know. And so I think being in that energy of trying to prove ourselves isn't helpful for business.
Oh, God, no. Not in the slightest. And it also means that we're chasing the carrot the whole time. We're chasing this imaginary something to, like if you recognize this as Anna and I are speaking of this, needing to prove yourself, and it's making you go, ooh, remember, with all of these, just really important, this is not about to add more shame on top. Okay. We're just to take the lid off. So if you're noticing these places, and we're both saying, probably all of these we know because we won't be able to speak about it, so we understand them, and that's really important for you to know as well, is to be kind with what you're noticing, just to be gentle with yourself. If it's helpful to just kind of just give yourself a bit of a hug and go, oh, bless you, silly Billy, that's okay. It's called being human. But this proving, the dangling of the carrot, the sense of, my question here is, how will you know once you've done that? Like, how will you know once you've proved? What are you waiting for? Are you waiting for someone to say, well done, or good girl? I mean, that's the whole of the realm. Is that what you're waiting for? You're waiting for your dad to tell that to you, your partner, that person that you've always felt a little bit competitive with, that runs a business. What kind of good to just get really honest and go, who am I waiting to say that? And I think one of the big things with that, if we're trying to just prove ourselves, waiting for this external validation, because this is all about validation, then we're probably missing the whole point. At the end of the day, it's not about where we get to, because that always changes. The next dreams come along, the next point of growth, the next expansion, business idea, whatever. The whole point is that we enjoy the whole experience, all of it, as much as we can. Isn't that why we're doing it? Because we're excited about this. We believe in it. It means something to us. It matters. It's going to make a difference. We're sharing something. We're being in service. That, if you can feel that, is so much different to this idea of proving ourselves, which is quite hollow and dissatisfying at the end of the day, because we've negated anything about us. It's all about outside of ourselves. So it's a good thing to kind of come back and go, the anti should of like, I'm doing this because I'm interested in what happens. I'm doing this because I'm challenging myself. I'm doing this because I'm really passionate about it. I'm interested. It's for yourself, your reasons, first and foremost. That's really important to do so. And maybe as you do that, then you can start to let go of some of those. You're proving to the algorithm, you're proving to like all these people that are obviously just sat there every day, nothing to do, waiting for your next post to come up, which we'll touch upon very shortly. I think that's actually the one we're doing, isn't it? Is that the one we're on now? I'm kind of a bit, yes, proving. Maybe you can speak a bit about the social media aspect of this.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting. Social media in itself is such a weird place to be, and being in that place of what do we share? What is important about what we do? And wanting to always be in that energy of proving ourselves to random strangers on the internet feels like such a strange thing to do, and strange way to be trying to work. And yet we can see, that we've been taught to do this now. I think, we've been told you should post this many times a week, and you should do this and you should do that, and it's again, it's about the shoulds.
Yeah,
it's the shoulds.
It should do
What we need to do is work out what works for us, and being able to do that in a way that feels sustainable. And I think that's the same for all of this that we've been talking about. It's like, who are we on the inside of this, outside of these shoulds? And another thing that I was just thinking of as you were speaking is that, and this kind of goes back to the more general point on this, is that one of my favorite quotes ever is, "Don't believe everything you think," because a lot of times, these shoulds are coming in, and they, we've internalized them, and we think it's our own mind, our own brain saying it. But actually, we need to turn that around and go, is that true? Do I have to be accommodating? Should I be further along by now? Do I have to do it all by myself? I think it's that curiosity thing that we were always, saying about. It's like, that's an interesting thought that I've just thought. Is that true? Rather than just acting on it without really thinking about it, and without seeing like, was that true for me 5 years ago, but it's not anymore? Where am I now? And I guess it's that permission for things to change, for you to change, for experiences that you have to move you to a new space.
I love that.
I think that's what's important here.
I love that. It's like asking, whose voice is this? Who's speaking right now? Is this helpful? Yeah, I love that. And just getting curious around the answer. And, this proving ourselves thing as well could be around, I have to work X amount of hours a day. I have to, I have to, bust my ass. Bust my ass. What's the phrase?
Bust the gut.
Such a weird phrase.
Let's not.
Like,
turn a phrase.
Doing that because I have to do that productivity so that I can prove, wow, look how, when really, actually, if we're listening to ourselves, we might be able to hear more. Like for myself, I'd rather work actually very little amount each day, but consistently. So I know I'm always moving forward. I know there's always momentum. If I get a sudden burst of enthusiasm and energy for something, I will absolutely devote that time to it. But I'm just made that way. And I think Anna's quite similar. I'm not made in this way. That feels really unnatural to who I am, to be trying to like work, 6-7 hours a day on it doesn't work for me. And I do pretty well. Things kind of happen. And sure, I could kind of go, well, there, compare and be like, oh, well, maybe I'd be further along, which is, wow, we're going to hit point, or should number 4. I should be further along than where I am. Hands up, who feels this way or has ever felt that way?
Honestly, it's such an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think particularly a lot of the women that are listening are kind of, had another career previously, and they're starting a business now. So they, they have that experience. They've come in on this. And so it feels like we're like, oh, this shouldn't be taking so long. Why is this taking so long? And, if this was going to work, it would have worked by now. And it's all of those kinds of things that fit in with that. I should be further along by now. Yeah. And certainly we all hope, that it'll be easy and we won't have to do very much. And all of a sudden the business is just going to mushroom and become really big. And I think there's so many of those kind of overnight success stories that we hear, particularly on socials. And I think that comparison comes in, and it's like, well, why is this taking so long?
Yeah.
Why am I not there yet?
Yeah. There's a really great analogy that the coach Melanie and Leah, that both Anna and I, have listened to her stuff before. I really like. I think she's great with the things that she offers, and one of her things that she's kind of touches upon every now and then is around pineapple season, where she says pineapple season's coming because pineapples take 18 months to grow, and it's so great to have that. And that's one pineapple. Can you imagine if the pineapple at some point had gone off, fuck this, it takes far too, I'm not even interested. I don't care about being pineapple. And it's even like human babies. I mean, this is also something to touch upon here with this. Babies take 9 months. There's a gestation period. There's all this stuff happening that's not yet out there in the world. Something's growing, usually belly, boobs, ankles, whatever. But that's not it's not ready yet, though. And it's the same. I really like the idea of thinking of our business sometimes as sometimes things are gestating, sometimes things are becoming, sometimes things are, kind of strengthening. And there's a birthing time. I talk about like there's a kind of midwifing. Maybe we're launching our business that we spent 9 months, 18 months kind of laying all the groundwork for, or certainly, with my book. I called it my book baby, that had taken a couple of years to germinate, gestate, grow, and then be ready to be birthed into the world. It's still a baby book out into the world. We forget, we're so used to everything being so fast, fast, fast that we
Yeah.
want that to be the case with what we're doing now. And I don't know about you, Anna, I think we've touched on this before. I know for myself now that I far more trust something that builds slowly and steadily than maybe something that just overnight is taken off. And part of that is because I know I wouldn't have the capacity for that straight away. I need to keep growing my own capacity to hold more and more expansion and more success. And that works for me.
Yeah. And I think kind of going back to the human baby analogy is that it's growing and it's birthed, but not like many creatures who can stand up immediately and start feeding. They can't walk, they can't feed themselves, So we get this business out there in the world, and there's still more that needs doing. It still needs tending to, it still needs caring for before it can walk and run and talk and all of that. There's so much more that goes into it that we need to think about in
I
terms
love
of
that, because it's also making me think about, we've spoken about this many times, of how many people give up within the first few years of their business. And actually using that as an analogy that you've just said, Anna, it's because it's not ready to walk itself yet. It still needs to be looked after. And how many times do we kind of go, oh, this isn't working, so I'll just abandon it, when actually it was actually doing well. It's just beginning to crawl, maybe, but we wanted it to be like, running its own empire. It hasn't even learned to stand on its own feet. But there's another aspect of this that impacts us as women, and that is literally what we've been talking about. Maybe you have kids. Maybe you're wanting to have children. That's going to impact the growth of your business or company, depending where you are. That's inevitable. Unless you're like completely loaded and you can have a C-section or get somebody else to carry your baby for you and have a nanny straight away from day one. But I'm assuming probably most of you, maybe not all of you, that's not the case. So bring motherhood in and the complexity of that. Children are sick, or God forbid, there's something more serious going on. You've also got, and especially for women, you've also got, especially as we get older, you might have kids that are starting to, being teenagers and all the beauty of that. And then you might have parents that you have to look after. And usually it is the woman that ends up more so becoming the caregivers in the family. So a lot of your energy and resources might go towards that. Add in perimenopause and menopause, and it's a wonder that we could even respond to an email. Never mind run our whole businesses. So actually, all of us right now deserve a massive round of applause for even bloody thinking about putting ourselves out there. So this whole lot, am I there yet? What, compared to what? Some bloke or some woman that you're comparing yourself with big shiny hair and shiny teeth on the internet? We need to give ourselves a break.
I think that's so true. There are so many things that we choose that can disrupt the path that we're on, that doesn't disrupt men as much, like you're saying about having kids or health things or caring. You know, all of that can really impact and just not set you back. I'm not going to call it quite like that, but we're right on time, and I definitely have felt this. We're right on time. I've definitely felt that. Oh, I should be further along, and oh, I went down this rabbit hole and I ended up doing something that that took time. And it's all very well in hindsight to talk about those things, but in the moment, one of the things that I've always found very helpful for me is that I trust that I will always do what I think is right in that moment.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else I can do. I can't be, it's really annoying to be there going about, oh, my past self, and start talking that it was doing the wrong, I was doing the wrong thing and I'd done the wrong thing and I should have done this X, Y, Z. It's all very well, but hindsight, we did what we did because that was the only thing that we could do.
Absolutely.
And nothing is wasted.
No.
And it's about what we do now, because I think a lot of times people can end up being very focused on the past and wishing and wanting things to have been different.
Oh, absolutely.
And for us to have done something different.
Yeah.
But that isn't helping us in this moment where we have the choice to move forwards slowly as we like.
I absolutely love this. And I love this whole thing of, that phrasing of because of that, because I've fucked around for 3 years and went off traveling to South America in my mid-20s. Because of that, I actually built a lot of resilience, ability to take risks, deal with challenges. Because of that, I was able to get that job doing this because, we can find where we are now. And it's like you say, it's often in hindsight where we look back and go, you know what, that might have been a challenging time, or that might have been a really stupid time in my life. But that brought this. There's always these lessons. It's a bit cheesy, isn't it? And actually, interestingly, we have so much in our resource bucket that we don't realize. And I think being older, I'm a debut author at the age of 53 years old. That's not young. Absolutely, I have had in my head a lot of, I wish this had happened 20, 30 years ago, and I've wasted all this time. And believe me, there's been loads of that. And I am older, and I can talk about certain things because I've lived them. I have something much more of a substance than maybe I would have done as a 23-year-old first-time writer, or even a 33-year-old. And I'm really trusting that. And I'm actually really enjoying being this older woman that comes into these spaces that's lived a lot more of life, and I'm actually noticing, we talked about respect earlier. I've actually noticed a bit more respect because of my age. So it's, again, mindset of how we're looking at these things. And at the end of the day, there's no point bloody going, I wish I was further along, because you're not. At the end of the day, you're here. So shut up. Just get on with the next step, isn't it? Yeah.
It's interesting. And not everyone I know will be a coach listening to this, but I remember I said to you, no one wants a 20-year-old life coach, because what life had I had? I mean, I'm talking about myself at 20. No, no.
Right.
I didn't have things to talk about. I didn't have experiences to bring. I didn't have, all of the good and the bad to be able to bring to that. And I also think in some ways that this is the success of this podcast, is these decades of the work that we have done. And I think that's what resonates with people. And of course, we're shortlisted in the Scottish Podcast Awards. Just going to put that out there again. I feel like I want to mention that every time we talk on this season. And I think that's important. We have one more. Are we going to go in with our one more?
Oh, hell yes. This is
great.
Hell
yes.
This one, I think everyone will be leaning forwards for. Go on. What is the should?
Okay, so this one is about money, and I had a whole list of ones
Pitching.
about money. But we're gonna go with something out there, and it is you should be affordable. Yes. And I think
a reaction in my body to that, Anna.
there's some quite, I've been talking very much in the Good Girl Rebellion about the self-employment pay gap. Women do not charge enough. The research shows that we do not charge the same as men for the same or a better quality of product or service. So this is a big one, and I think particularly when there are times of challenge in terms of money and all of that kind of thing, we think, oh, I need to bring my prices down, or I need I think again we're looking outwards for what our pricing should be. We're looking at what can people afford, what feels reasonable, what feels that, rather than what is my time worth, what is a sustainable business for me, what will mean that my business is going to be running in 3 years' time, rather than me running around after people for very little money. And so I think this is an important one that we need to take on board.
There's something in this, isn't there, about, and I know for me, I've had this running in my mind, and I'm also, I've, bless her, but I've heard my mum say this to me as I was stepping up a few years ago into something around don't ask for too much. And isn't it interesting? Don't rock the boat. It comes back a little bit to what we were saying before about being accommodating. Don't, to actually go in, whether it's you're going for, well, working with clients, we're talking to you as entrepreneurs here. So you've got this meeting with your client, the potential client, they're really interested, and they want to know how much. And what do we do? Where do we go with that? What end do we go? Like, we'll go small, because then they're going to say yes. Actually, often, interestingly, that's probably more likely to make them turn away if your pricing is too low. We don't think about that aspect of it all, rather than being in the price that we. It's not even about deserve. People kind of go charge what you're worth or charge what you deserve. I don't personally. I feel like that's a strange thing. For me, it's more about, like, where I am right now. I have a lot of expertise. I have 25 years worth of experience in all these different aspects of things, what I'm bringing to this new business. Hell yes, my pricing is going to reflect that. So there's something around, are we value money, the time, the energy, the training, the skills, the hours we've put in into what it is that we are offering? Who was it who I was with? Was it you that was telling me this? Maybe it was somebody else. It was you that was saying this the other day, that somebody was asking, it kind of told this client they were pitching something for their business, and told the client the price, which they had kind of quoted for the day. It's not you that said this, isn't it? And then the client just very nonchalantly turned around and went, is that for an hour or for the day? And the client just suddenly went, per hour? And then they went, yeah, no problem. It's like, okay. Seriously.
Yeah.
And if people want to negotiate, they can negotiate. And you can be very clear then whether you're going to negotiate, like what's your lower limit. So you don't end up being too accommodating or too like affordable, just in case. Because what's that based on? Fear. People aren't going to pay this. It's too much. I'm too much.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the don't ask for too much. You should be grateful for what you get, even if it's crumbs, keep prices reasonable. It's all of that stuff. And I think for me, it's always about what is sustainable, what is needed for you in your business. And back to what you were just saying around what do I bring? What am I bringing? What is the change that's going to happen in this person? Or what does my product do? Or my expertise, the expertise that I have,
the results.
What is that worth? I think that's more important.
Yeah. And there's also, I think there's something as well about maybe owning that we want to make good money. Owning that actually I would like to make X amount of money. I'm aiming to make this amount per month or per year going forwards. I want this. I think that can also be something that's very challenging as women to own that. It's not seen as being very feminine, is it? Or it hasn't been seen as that. Or we're going to be seen as, from the outside as, oh, you're greedy. Is that all you care about? You don't care. You only care about money. And again, I can't imagine anyone saying this or thinking about this about men. It feels such a woman-centered thing that there's something not right. We've got to be inclusive. What about other women? Or you're going to exclude, people that might need it as if we're like a bloody charity. I'm not a charity. I used to be a charity in how I worked. Let me be honest. And that doesn't mean we don't discern whether we're willing to work for somebody and change our prices because of whatever reason, but it's not that's not going to be our usual kind of way forwards. It's being are you affordable? What are your prices like? Do you look at other people and go, how can they charge that? That's a very telling thing. They're charging that because they want to.
Yeah. This is a big one, and I'm just plug at the moment it's called the Get Paid program that is coming soon around all of this, which is around the pricing, but not working out how much to charge, but actually how do we hold that price? How do we do that? How looking at our money mindset and also our nervous system and all of that stuff, because we can put a price out there and not believe in it and really find that we can't sell at that price because although it maybe is the right price, it's just a little bit too big, stretchy for us. So yes, absolutely. I'm loving all of this.
All of this as well. I want to say one more thing about the money is, interestingly, one thing that could be really helpful is, what power have you given to money? We're talking all about power and kind of taking that back and the choosing of instead of the shoulds. And a lot of us have made our stories around money, or money means something. For me, money has meant freedom in a big way. So I've put my power of feeling free in my life a lot of the time onto money. Having money means I have freedom. And while that certainly there is an element of truth to that, what happens if I take back freedom to myself? I take that back. That freedom is my freedom. I can feel that myself anywhere. And I think when we unhook what we've made money to mean, it's so charged that we can get in our own way around just our whole relationship with money. In the end of the day, really, money is quite neutral. Money is just neutral. It's just a thing. It's us that have made it mean whatever. And we can play with that. That means we can play with making the number whatever we want to make it. It's just numbers. When you think about it, it's literally just numbers.
Yeah. Love that. Right. Well, we would love to hear any shoulds that you tend to hear or you hear from other people. We'd love you to share those with us. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Full of Ourselves podcast. We will be back soon with another episode.